The end dimension is a desolate landscape where there is more open void than there's actual space to live on. It is a harsh place for anyone to exist. Look the wrong way and you're dead. Walk the wrong way, you're also dead. Try to sleep, yep, you guessed it, also dead. But even with the ever-present threat of death, there still is a lot to this place that keeps people coming back all the time, right? Looking around the end, it's not really a big surprise that this is the most asked for update of the entire Minecraft community. One of only 3 dimensions in our Minecraft game is a just desolate wasteland where there's just not much to it. I recently watched a video by my friend Beckyamon that got me thinking about what I would want to see in an end update. These are all my own ideas. I'm not a developer. I don't work for Mojang, but I do have over 10,000 hours spent playing Minecraft in the last 3 years alone. And I also, outside of that, have a lot of experience of playing video games at a very high competitive level. So I think I have a pretty good sense on how to balance a video game. So today we're going to answer a few questions. 1, how can we preserve the feel of the end, but freshen up the landscape? 2, how can we bring the end into a consistent, but not overwhelming part of the Minecraft gameplay loop? 3, finally, what systems should be added to the end to extend Minecraft gameplay without breaking the game? And well, for fun, I want to rank all of these ideas on a scale of fun versus exploitable. Let me know what you think down in the comments, subscribe for more, but let's start theory crafting. When we first look at the end, it's empty. Sometimes when you look around, all you can see is an endless sea of floating islands and chorus fruit growing on top of it. So naturally, players want to see this space just filled up with more stuff, just to make it more interesting. This brings a lot of people to the Better End mod, which I will agree does a pretty good job of filling up the end with a lot of stuff to it. And at first glance, there is a lot of stuff to do in it. However, I think this is actually the wrong way to push the Minecraft end update. It changes the entire vibe of the dimension, taking that desolate wasteland that's already kind of established in lore and just filling it full of too much. My brain keeps sticking around the idea that Endermen come to the overworld because they want to pick up blocks to bring back to the end with them to try and bring life into the dimension. And I think we can play off of that, but we'll get into that more later. And to be honest, for the Better End mod, a lot of that stuff is actually pretty surface level. There's not a whole lot of depth to it. It's some new blocks to build with and another level of upgraded tools on top of netherite that you can take back with you to the overworld. In my opinion, it's a great mod, but it's just got a lot of stuff in it without any really lasting substance. Every time I've played with it, I felt like I went out there once, used the things in it, brought some back to the overworld with me, and never wanted to visit it again. I think it's an awesome mod, I just don't think it's a good fit for the Minecraft base game. So it got me thinking, how can Minecraft preserve the feel of the Outer End Islands, but still add something to make them feel fresh? Introducing the End City! Yeah, I know, this already exists in the game as a bastion of life in the end. All of that life wants to kill you or make you float, but it's still life and it's still something different. I love end cities because of the joy you get when you find one for the first time, traveling around the outer islands on your cobblestone bridges, and finally one pops into the view and you've found it. Here's my idea for the end. We keep the idea of the open end islands and the barren wasteland, but we add more points of interest throughout the end as you are exploring. This could feature some sort of end oasis, a new type of faction, some end forests, or even more types of end city structures at different levels. Still featuring a lot of that open, empty space that you see out there, but also adding more fun to exploring and finally finding that thing that you've been looking for. On the graph, I'd put this pretty high on the fun side, but it's not super exploitable, but still kind of seed dependent, so I think like somewhere up here works great. Exploring a Minecraft world is always fun. I decided to reach out to some of my friends to see what they would want to see included in a Minecraft end update. They had to pick a single feature to add to it as kind of ways to help me fill out ideas of what those new points of interest could be. And well, Scar decided that he didn't want anyone to ever live in the end dimension ever again, but really make it for speedrunners and competitive gamers to have a place to exist. Otherwise from that, the most asked for thing was new wood types, more focused around being a blue or a purple, or even Gem had the great idea of asking for a pastel color palette which could go so hard. That fills in the idea for the end forest I mentioned with our colorful trees, and I think we could expand upon these to be a larger version of like a chorus fruit, so that still has that wacky alien feel that we get from the chorus fruit, but it's a full wood type in itself and potential for a new really colorful leaf type block. fWhip's had the awesome idea to bring the happy ghast into the end dimension by having foliage, not foliage, could be foliage, growing underneath of the islands. Thinking about it as like an upside down type of farming situation that you could do would be so cool, but also potentially very tedious to maintain until you get some platforms down there. However, I do think it's an absolutely awesome idea. So if we were to take one of the base island shapes and on the bottom there was some end dirt or something that can support life, and some vines or something grows down towards the void, that could be a really immersive way of gathering a new food source. Some more colorful vines or even another wood type. My brain here instantly went to bamboo being a full wood type. Now, what if we had some sort of an end vine that wouldn't be the full thickness of a wood log, but instead something around the thickness of our bamboo here, but it has a whole wood type built out from that. I also really want a green wood, so I'm thinking like a darker shade of this guy right here could be perfect. But like all the blocks. Now going back to the first idea I had, the end oasis. I think it could be very cool to add a way to get some type of colored water into the end that does not use biome coloring, so that we could bring this back to the overworld for more building control like we got with the mossbach being a consistent green color instead of grass. We could also see new flower types in here, hopefully like the wildflowers or pink petals, so we could use the smaller block spaces for even more decoration. And of course, glowing mushrooms could be a fun vibe in the end. Outside of that, I think we could have a few simple changes to the end dimension that could help create a more cohesive vibe around the entire space and less sameness across the board. Like even just some of the end islands, just cut all of the coarse fruit off of it and put like a short little like light blue grass or something on top of it to be like an end plains biome instead of coarse fruit growing everywhere. I think that variation could be cool. I'd also love to see beyond that, we change the islands. Instead of generating in a flat line, we have an upper, a middle, and a lower island, so we have more Y-level elevation of these already floating islands. As currently the end is extremely flat, which just really adds to how boring it is. So I think that variation coming through could actually help out a lot. Now back to our graph. I'll add these in different sections, as you can see, with the forest being highly fun as new log types are always fun, and filling in that blue or hopefully purple wood would really round out all of our building possibilities. And then it's also fairly exploitable, as you know, the tech community is going to need like 5 seconds to turn it into an auto farm. So that guy can sit up there. The under island foliage, I think I would rate a little bit lower, as I think it could be a little tedious, but honestly it lands pretty perfectly in the middle. It could go up or down on the exploitable level, depending on what crops are actually added into it and if that green wood type is added. And lastly, the end oasis, I think gives a lot of potential for really cool things with a special new type of water. So I'm actually leaning towards this being pretty high on the exploitable level more than just fun, because I think the tech community will absolutely love a liquid that does something unique. So I guess it's fun for them? Okay, maybe I move it up here. Who knows, whatever that would do, but even it could potentially just make some stronger potions, but I don't think you could handle it. This leads into my next idea, though. As the islands are currently at the same Y level in the end, my assumption is because it makes it easier to traverse around it, even when we're just doing our little cobblestone bridges everywhere. And then having to go up and down, which is that whole huge level of complexity to it, that before an elytra would make that near impossible. So I would like to introduce something from Minecraft Legends, the bounce cap mushroom. This thing could fling you into the air. Well, if you're standing on top of it and then you jump, it just gives you like a super jump. Then I'm also thinking that when you walk on top of the mushroom, just by standing on top of it, you get slow falling for a few seconds. So that when you launch up, you can kind of float down to the next island, up or down or whatever it might be. You can navigate the end much more easily instead of needing to pillar and bridge everywhere. Hopefully you have blocks to get yourself back though, and hopefully you actually line your jump up correctly so you just actually hit the island instead of, 5 blocks before it and fall into the void, as that it would still add a little complexity to it. Like, let's be honest, a lot of people are probably going to die to it, but I do think it'd be a much more fun way to move around the end. My only worry about it right now is how this affects existing things in the Minecraft game, because we can make slow falling potions already with the Minecraft Phantom Membrane that you can brew, so you can bring those to the dragon fight with you, which I know a lot of people do. When the dragon flings you up, you can safely land down instead of needing a water bucket clutch it, because, you know, we're not all that good at the game. But there are other buffs in the game that we can get from multiple sources already, so I do think it's okay to be able to include that in here. And then on top of that, we did recently get wind charges, which you can use to set up a launcher, which will fly you hundreds of blocks into the air as long as you're not wearing blast resistance. Found that out recently, really sucks. So I'm thinking that would put our bounce caps like over here on max exploitable level. They're still pretty fun though, because you can never complain about just bouncing between a bunch of stuff. So I would put them up here. Now for one last thing that I think the end really needs that the Nether update brought into the game, as it just added a ton of life, is the addition of an animal that can be a food source as well as can be bred. The hoglins, they might be a bit aggressive, but they do allow for a fully sustainable food source and ranching approach inside of the Nether if you have enough mushrooms and, you know, a safe pen to like touch from a distance, like do not pets. But my other favorite part of the hoglins is that if you bring them into the overworld, they turn into a zoglin, and then they no longer are a food source, so you actually have to keep them in the Nether. You can't take them out of the dimension, which is, I think, is a really cool way to use mobs like that. I would love to see something like this in the end, maybe like a floating mob. I keep going to like a jellyfish that's passive and can be a food source, and you can use something to lure it closer to the ground so it kind of stays in a meadow that you've created, and then you can use that as a food source out there. As, let's be honest, coarse fruit, sure, it's a food source, but it's a little annoying to rely on when every time you need to eat food, it teleports you all over the place. It's not really that fun. I feel like this lands more in like a necessity than anything, so I think I'm just gonna throw it down here, as it probably won't be super fun or super exploitable. Like, some of you can make a farm for it, but we already have so many food farms. It just needs to exist to balance everything out. Talking about the Nether update, if I had to pick one thing out of the entire Nether update that sold the entire thing and brought it all together, I would not say it's the new biomes that were added. As cool as they are, no, I don't think that's it. I would like to say the piglin faction being introduced to the Nether update is what brought the Nether back to life. We have bastions as their home base. We can find roaming bands of piglins out in Crimson Forest hunting hoglins for food. And most importantly about all of this, the piglin's obsession with the shiny gold items. This brought bartering into the game. In the overworld, we have villagers who you can trade with your emeralds for goods, which is great. Then we got piglins in the Nether who are willing to barter at random, because they're not fully friendly, for trade goods for a various useful set of items. Let's be honest, gravel's probably the best one, but you know, we can all differ. And the most important here is that if you bring the piglin into the overworld, it zombifies and you can no longer barter with them. That means in order to get those items from the Nether, from the piglins, you actually have to go to the Nether, which moved the Nether into a very active part of the gameplay loop, but not something that's consistently required to go to, but it does have incentives to actually go there. When trying to think about what I would want to see on my end, my brain jumped back to my first love, World of Warcraft, and the cute little mushroom people of Sporgar. They live in a shattered world of Outland and are able to create a happy little society based under giant mushrooms in a swampy marshland. Now, I'm not a character artist at all, or really much of an artist outside of putting blocks together, so we'll leave the actual design for this up to Mojang if they do decide to go this route. So here's my attempt at making a more Minecrafty looking concept for a shorter, wider Enderman, kind of based around the Copper Golem, who is friendly and could have a home in the Outer End Islands. Maybe these dudes aren't able to teleport, so the incentive here is they want players to bring them blocks from the overworld to them, and they'll trade for unique end blocks. I'll be honest, I would put a new faction at nearly, we're gonna go fully maxed out on fun and exploitable. We know the technical community will find some way to mass produce everything that these dudes can do, so we'll at least give it maxed out on fun and maxed out over there. but also just stumbling across a little village in the end of friendly dudes could be an absolute blast on the fun level. This could feed into the idea that my friend Mogswamp threw out there of some sort of respawn anchor for the end. I could definitely see these ender villagers trading an item that could be used for setting your spawn out in the end dimension. But another idea that I had is that they could also trade you an item that would allow you to create a portal from the outer end islands back to the overworld, linking them together. Currently, if you are in the outer end islands and you want to go home, you have to go back to the middle of the end, go out through the portal, wherever you spawned into the overworld, get the thing you needed, then go back to the stronghold, start in the middle of the end, and find your way out to your base. It's an absolutely excruciating journey that is just not fun at all. A point my friend Beckymon brought up is that the Nether succeeds as it currently allows players to dip in and out quickly from anywhere. So if we brought that same logic into the end, but only after you found your first stronghold and have entered the end and have beaten the Ender Dragon, bringing yourself to those outer end islands, this could help bring the end dimension into the existing gameplay loop without it feeling like an absolute chore to get all the way out there, because let's be honest, I can't be bothered. Looking at the Better End mod again, if the end update brings a ton of blocks but doesn't have a quick way to travel back and forth, we know that most players will probably go out, grab a few saplings of each tree or however you would go about growing them, a few of each type of block so they could play with them a little bit as they want to, and then head back on home to their base and probably never visit again unless they absolutely need to. Okay, so far we have a bunch of new biomes as points of interest scattered around the end, and we have the potential of Ender villages to spawn in the world. Probably need a different name for that. But this all just brings in new blocks and transportation methods and probably a new type of trading system. But I've been really wanting to try and build an update where there's something for as many types of players as I possibly can throw in there. So let's talk about new systems that could be added with an end update. First up, we have the enchanting table that I personally think really needs an overhaul. And well, the base of the enchanting table is made of obsidian, which exists in the middle of the end as a powerful obelisk for end crystals to sit on top of. So I think we could add some new functionality to the enchanting table after you have reached the end and beat the dragon. This way we could further incentivize players that beating the dragon is not the end of your Minecraft game. It's actually unlocking the end game. Right now, you get the elytra, you get some shulker boxes by beating the dragon and exploring the end. Those are nice, but they don't really apply to every playstyle. But adding in some extra enchanting features that allows for a second enchant potentially to be applied for gear, or even new exclusive enchantments that are only obtainable for this end chanter could be a great addition. Even just as a fix for the too expensive thing when we're trying to add all of our books together and you accidentally add Feather Falling 4 before you add Unbreaking 3, and now your netherite boots are just ruined. We've all been there. It sucks. It always sucks. But my friend Linksy threw out an idea of an infuser as a difficult item to obtain, potentially from the end villages. I don't know, maybe could all link it together, but you could infuse buffs into your armor permanently. He threw out the idea of a lot of like the beacon buffs, so you could always have haste or regen or resistant, whatever would make sense to you as a player. I feel like something in the middle ground between the enchanter and the infuser would be the type of system that I would go for, as I think it would really benefit the end game without needing to replace netherite armor already. I don't think we need enderite armor, as a lot of people have thrown out, as netherite is already really strong. So let's instead add something that assists players outside of just taking less damage. But I would never complain about more durability on tools, so maybe we do go for that. For me, however, the main thing that I would like to see out of this is more player choice to what upgrades they want on their gear, like a new level of haste that could allow you to, I don't know, instant mine endstone, or maybe deep slate perhaps. That'd be nice. Please, Mojang, I really want to instant mine deep slate. It's fine. It would be really nice to incentivize players to want to make bigger projects in the end that wouldn't take a crazy amount of time digging out an island or needing a TNT duper to clear the place, as that's not really that true to the vanilla Minecraft game. It's allowed and it has been patched out, but it's really not true to the essence of the 1 block at time in vanilla. This enchanter for me would sit pretty high on the fun level, but maybe not too much on the exploits. I think I'm gonna land it right here, as I don't think it'll change gameplay too much, but hopefully just smooth things out. It would be super high on exploitable if it's balanced well, so I think it can belong pretty well in that middle spot. You can even have a ton of different armor sets for different jobs that even build into armor trims, so you can have a new fit each time you go out to do a different type of task. I'll always be wearing my digging ones, but you know, you can wear something else. I'll just keep digging. My other idea is that Minecraft should add a trinket slot. Currently right now we have the main hand, we have the offhand, and then you have the 4 armor pieces that you can equip. But I think right in the inventory above the offhand could be a great place for a trinket to be added in. This could be something like the crab claw, or even the output of the infuser idea that Lynxie had mentioned as an item you carry around instead of putting it on your armor, so that you could, you know, pick the little gemstone that gives you haste, or you could pick the gem that gives you resistance, whatever it might be. But then you could also be picking between things that, like, an example would be you can have your crab claw for extra reach, or you could have the haste one that would add up to haste 3 or something and be able to insta-mine everything with the super end obliterator 9000. My current struggle though with the trinket slot is that I really love Minecraft's philosophy about being able to see a player in the distance, way over there in the fog, and you can tell exactly what type of armor they're wearing, you can tell what tools they're holding on, and that if it's enchanted or not. You can't tell the enchantments on the gear, but you can at least see that, okay, that dude is enchanted. He probably is a little bit more difficult than me who doesn't have any enchants. Like, maybe I can't win that fight. I probably couldn't win it anyways, but that's not what we're talking about today. So I think the trinkets would need to somehow show visually on the character, but I haven't quite figured out how that would work, and maybe you all can help me out with that one. Overall though, I think trinkets have a ton of potential to expand how we play the game in Minecraft in whatever way we want, and I think it'd be really cool to have that thrown out into the end dimension if you have to go out there as a new end game item that you can obtain. This for me sits really close to the enchanter on our list, and you know what, actually haste 3, if that comes in, haste 3 max fun. No, all the way out there. No, put it right here. I think the forest would be more fun than that because new building blocks. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good place for it to land. That about sums up all my ideas that I have for an end update right now. What do you think? Again, I do want to say that I do not work for Mojang, and I do not have any direct influence on Minecraft development as much as I wish I might, but maybe a dev will watch this video and maybe it could potentially, maybe possibly in the smallest teeny tiniest way inspire a feature, and that would be super cool. But don't get mad at them if none of this stuff lands in. This is all my own thoughts on what I think would make a really cool end update. If you would like to see an end update in Minecraft, don't just yell into the void screaming end update when. Try and get some new ideas into the mix, and maybe you, with something you share, can inspire one of the team members to create something that then makes it into the game. And also, when they do finally release the end update and the Snapchats and all that stuff, don't instantly just say, this is bad, this isn't the end update I wanted, the better end was better, mod developers are so much better than Mojang devs, blah, blah. No, don't do that, it's wrong. There's a lot more under the curtain that you can't see, that's, you know, under the hood, behind the curtain. Words are hard, dude. I don't know. But give it some time to cook, and hopefully we can get something really awesome coming into the end dimension of Minecraft that can really make players want to actually spend a lot of their time out there, as we are kind of seeing this stuff alluded to with the end flashes and whatnot. They are starting to play around with some things. So I think now is a great time to actually get your voice out there, to get it heard and see what you might want to think. So leave your ideas down in the comments below. That's my list of my wants for the end update. I hope you enjoyed, like the video, share it with a friend, subscribe, all that cool stuff, rant over. I'll catch you on the flip side.